full publication strategy. I mean, I think that's the main purpose of journal citation reports. So I'll go through. I'll go through the few slides and the products probably in 40-45 minutes, and we will keep some time for the questions and answers. All right. Okay. So can you see my screen? Someone is asking where is the screen. All right. Yes. All right. Okay. Great. Okay. Cool. All right. So just put it as a presentation. As I said, I'm based in Dubai. I'm working for Thomson Reuters. I'm a product specialist. I'm a consultant on information resources for science. So I do train researchers, universities mainly, governments on several products, Web of Science, Journal Citation Reports, for example, or EndNote Online, Researcher ID. So Journal Citation Reports is based on the data of Web of Science, but not all the data. It's based on Web of Science core collection. For those of you who know Web of Science is based on several databases. The core one, the one that we call core collection, with several indices, Citation Index, the social science, arts, humanities, conference postings, books, and chemical reactions. But we don't, in Journal Citation Reports, we don't look, for example, into Medline or InSpec or Derwent. We do look only at Web of Science core collections. So once a year, in Journal Citation Report, you have one edition every year. So right now, when you access Journal Citation Report, you need to keep in mind that you're looking at 2013 edition. So we have one edition for each year, and for 2014, it will come around June, July. Usually it takes around 6 months to analyze, to extract the whole data of Web of Science core collection and to do the statistics and to get the data into Journal Citation Report. So I already got from Saudi, I can't remember the place, but someone was asking, where will I be able to see Journal Citation Report 2014? The answer will be around June, July. All right? So you need to be patient until we analyze the whole data of last year, and we will make it available in 2015 around June, July. So out of Web of Science core collection, we extract and we build those annual reports, and this is what we call Journal Citation Reports from Web of Science core collection. I think the concept is very easy to understand. You have all the papers in Web of Science core collection, and what we do, instead of looking at the paper level, we look at the journal level. So we give that information, and at the end of the day, when you use Journal Citation Report, you can very easily see which journal got the biggest number of citations, which journals got the biggest number of papers published, and when you do an average, you get what we call the impact factor, and other analytics which help you to compare journals. So I already mentioned that the journal impact factor is very well known. I think it belongs to Thomson Reuters. This is what we do in Thomson Reuters. So when a journal tells you our impact factor is, I don't know, 5, 6, 10, and simply ask them where do you get the data, they will simply reply data is calculated by Thomson Reuters. But for you, as a researcher in Saudi Arabia, you have access to that data through Journal Citation Report. So how it's calculated? The impact factor in 2013, we look at the number of citations, and we divide that number of citations by the number of papers. So in short, it's an average number of citations received by a paper. So when a journal tells you our impact factor is 4, that means that in average, the impact factor of 4 means that in average, a paper, an article, or any paper published in that journal received, in average, 4 citations. That doesn't mean that every paper in that journal will receive 4 citations. It can be 0, it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 1,000, it can be 100, But in average, a paper in that journal gets that impact. I usually compare journals like paper or scientific journals with like TV channels, and I think it's very easy to understand that when you compare TV channels, let's say for example you're doing an interview in regional, local channel here, let's say Dubai One for example, just take Dubai One or any Saudi channel that you know. But if you do the same interview in Arabia, Al Jazeera or BBC or CNN, you won't have the same impact. And for you as a researcher, you need to have that analogy in mind, meaning that when you have your paper, you finish your article and you're happy with it and you work very hard, the impact that your work will have will mostly depend on where you present your work. It can be conferences or journals. Today we're talking about journals. So that paper, you need to be careful before submitting that paper to any kind of journal. And I personally did some analysis for every country in the region, the Middle East, North Africa region, from Morocco to Pakistan, Turkey to Sudan. And clearly we see that researchers in general, I mean, in terms of statistics, when we look at the top 5 journals, for example, in Saudi Arabia, the researchers publish the most, we see that there are probably 1 or 2 Q1 journals, like desalination, for example, but then you will get Saudi Medical Journal, which is Q2 or Q3. And I'm sure if you have that information, you have it through journal citation reports, that paper, you need to be careful where you submit it, because all the journals, they don't have the same, I would say, performance in terms of impact. And this is what we do as well in journal citation reports. We take, again, when we compare journals, we need to be careful. We compare journals within the same category. We don't compare a journal publishing in social sciences with a paper publishing in applied mathematics or biology or chemistry or oncology or medicine. All these disciplines, or I would say research areas, have different impact. All right, you write a paper on Ebola, you won't have the same impact if you write a paper on, I don't know, social sciences in the Gulf countries, in the GCC. So clearly the research areas themselves, by default, they have different impact. But within a subject category, and this is what we do, let's say we take chemistry, we take all the journals publishing in that particular research area in chemistry, we take the minimum impact factor and the maximum, and we make a distribution every 25%. And again, this is very easy to understand. Let's say you have 100 journals publishing in chemistry, just for the sake of the example. The top 25%, we will call that Q1, all right? Then we have Q2, Q3, Q4. So for the biggest impact factor till 25, that's Q1. 26 to 50, that's Q2. 51 to 75, that's Q3. And then 76 to 100, that's Q4. So we just divide, and this is what I mentioned earlier when I did some basic statistics for the region at the country level, each country level. And we see that mostly we see researchers publish mostly in those categories, like in the lower, like the second 25 quartile. We call that quartile. Quartile 1, quartile 2, quartile 3, quartile 4. Quartile because it's 25%. All right. I go on and then I'll keep the questions at the end. Based on that, as a researcher, you need to keep in mind that to get published in those top journals, it may be time consuming and depends on your profile, depends on your research history. Clearly, Q1, that's an aggressive approach. It may take 2 years, 3 years, sometimes 4 years to be accepted in those top journals. And when you're happy you get accepted, they may ask you to write again the article because it may have to be adapted. Q2, Q3, that's moderate approach, and Q4, a very conservative approach. Again, for PhD students, for example, or young researchers, we sometimes I give that advice if you need to be published within few months. Clearly, Q4 is the main target. But again, I mean, researcher with 10, 15, 20 years of experience will get easier into Q1. So sometimes we see young researchers collaborating with senior researchers so that they get into Q1 journals. The journals in Q1, they will see your past, or they will look at your history, saying that if you publish already in those journals, all right, you manage to get published in those journals, it will be easier for you to get published again in those journals. All right. I hear a lot of bips. Okay, just people giving their names. All right. Okay. So that's the logic in journal citation report. We analyze the citations and we make them available at the journal level, and then we I would say classify or rank the journals by category. We have around 200, I think it's 232 categories in journal citation reports. So within each category, you'll have maybe 50, 70 journals within each category. Depends on the research area. And then you have the impact factor, and then you can rank, classify the journals. I just want to show you that report that I did for Saudi Arabia. I already shown it last year when I did something similar for GCC. So if I do Saudi Arabia, and when I look at the top 5 journals where Saudi researchers, when I say Saudi researchers, it's based on the affiliation, the address, not on the nationality. So these are the top 5 journals where researchers in Saudi have published the most in the past 10 years. So we see Saudi Medical Journal, 1,500 publications, and that's Q4 journal. The top 5 journals we see mainly Q3, Q4, Q3, Q3. I mentioned desalination. I know desalination is probably in the top 10, and that's top journal. But when we look at the statistics, researchers based in Saudi Arabia publish the most in Q4 and Q3 journals. That's for your information. So again, I think there's some work to be done on that side. Being published is relatively easy, but as a researcher, I think every researcher looks for the biggest impact. The impact starts on the choice of the place where you present your work, conferences or journals. All right. Next slide. So you have access to Web of Science in Saudi. Within Web of Science, you can already see those kind of analytics and information when you look at a paper. You search for a paper in Web of Science, you get the paper, and here you see view journal information. So that paper has been published in International Journal of Fetal Remediation. All right. Well, it's an old screenshot, but here you would see 2013 data. That impact factor, the impact factor of that journal is 1.17, and we have the impact factor on 5 years, which is 1.5. This journal published in a certain research area, GCR Journal Citation Report category in environmental sciences, and the rank of that journal, we have 210 journals in Web of Science core collection publishing in that research area. This journal is ranked 141 out of 210 journals. So that's the third 25%. If you take 25% of 210, all right, so that's around 50, okay, 52. So from 1 to 52, that will be Q1, 53 to 105, 106, that would be Q2, and 107 to 150 something, that would be Q3. So 141 is within that range, and that's why we call that journal a Q3 journal in that category. A journal can be classified in several categories. So in this case, you would see environmental sciences, multidisciplinary, chemistry, or whatever, with a different rank, a different quartile. But for you, depending on the topic or your work, your article, All right, the choice of the journal will mostly depend, I would say. I mean, we're talking about impact factor, but there are other analytics to be used to choose or to approach a journal. So again, journal citation report, as a researcher, see it as a tool which helps you to set up or to calibrate your publication strategy. I don't know if there is any librarian attending this workshop, but the librarians as well, they look at journal citation report. Why? Because at the end of the year, when they have some budget and they need to know, shall we keep that journal in our library, or we probably should subscribe to that one because the impact is pretty high on that category, etc. So the librarians also, they use journal citation report to know, I would say, the performance, let's call it performance of different journals. In Web of Science, you have the publisher information, ISSN, and the research domain, again, it's environmental sciences and ecology. So that's directly from Web of Science. As a sum up, journal citation report, please, before moving to the product, the tool, the database, journal citation report helps you to explore journals by its 232 subject categories, so more than 200, from Web of Science core collection. So you can explore the journals. And one common feedback that I have in the region recently, I think, yeah, it was in Dubai, one researcher told me, yeah, I know already what should I read, which journal should I read. I have 15 years of experience, the journals that I have to read and the journals that I have to approach to publish paper. I said, okay, fine, but please keep in mind that the things are moving quite fast. And a journal which was maybe top journal 10 years ago may be different, may have a different rank today. I can show you some example. I don't have any example in mind, but I'm sure if I play with journal citation report, we will be able to see some journals where the impact factor came down, and other journals where the impact factor went up like big time. When you look at Nature Science, I know I have those examples in mind. Impact factor is around 40 today, 41, 42. But if you look 5 years or 10 years ago, it was around 20. All right? So that means that now every paper in those journals gets double, in average, double number of citations. So things are moving. So again, even without, even for people, experienced researchers, journals, they are moving, their performance are moving. You see some journals get dropped, some journals stop working, clearly, or some new journals came in the market. I'm thinking about PLOS ONE, for example, PLOS ONE, which is an open access journal, which is in the top journals in terms of impact factor. Journal citation reports help you to find related journals within a certain category or even beyond. And I think this is important for a researcher to know that a certain work, let's say, I don't know, applied mathematics or chemistry, maybe that research area is probably well connected to other research areas, categories, or other journals. I'm thinking about multidisciplinary journals, for example. For you as a researcher, I mentioned that already several times, it helps you to evaluate and compare journals using citation metrics. We talked a lot about impact factor. Impact factor is not the only one citation metric that we use to compare journals. I'm thinking about Immediacy Index. Immediacy Index, just for your information, we'll look at more citation metrics later on. Immediacy Index helps you to have an idea on the fact that when you publish in a certain journal, you may be cited faster than if you published in another journal. And clearly this is because maybe people read more that journal than other journals. So if this journal is read more by researchers, you may have more chances to be cited, I would say, faster than in other journals. Segment your approach by quartiles. Think about the previous slide where you have Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Again, depends on your profile, depends on your history. I know people, they started from Q4, then once you have some paper published in journals, you can start Q3, Q2, and then takes more time, but it's worth it to be published in Q1 journals. All right. Again, depends also. I remember a PhD student in Algeria. He said, I think he was a student in medicine. He said, I'm looking for journals having an impact factor between 2 and 5. That was his range, and that was his strategy. Sometimes it's coming from management, university management. So depends, but again, you have the information through journal citation report. And build up your own publication strategy by combining findings in Web of Science. When you do search in Web of Science, you know that journals which publish most in that category, that journal, I may have some chances to be published in that journal, and I can have a look at the quartile, the impact factor directly from Web of Science without having to open journal citation report, and of course journal citation reports to get more insights on the journal. I just use that communication in science, your research results, if you want to use them and to set up your brand as a researcher, to become an influential researcher in your research area, you have conferences and journal papers. So the choice of the journal where you will submit your paper and the conferences where you will present your work, these both combine that help you to set up your brand and to increase your impact. As a researcher, you may hear that publish or perish, that idea that you need to constantly publish, otherwise you just don't exist as a researcher. But again, for you as a researcher, you need to choose what and how you publish. Again, we see in the region many papers that are published in the wrong way, I would say, or the wrong format, or maybe some misleading information. So again, when we talk about quality paper, a good paper is defined by several, I would say, parameters that define quality. So quality, you have references. People, they will look, they will read your paper, but they will also look at your references. The references are the basis of your work. So be very careful on what you cite. The content in demand, clearly, if you write a paper on something that has been done already or which is not trendy, clearly people they won't read, cite you. Information that we can trust. So the way you present your work in your paper, the logic, the structure as well, the format, I think that shouldn't be an issue. I have a workshop on EndNote Online very soon. You can still register. EndNote Online helps you to format the references in the correct format. You know that when you approach a journal, the journal will tell you, okay, this is the style that we use in our journal. So the references, please format them in the correct format. Why is it important? First, because it helps researchers to know the sources of your work, and this is how we write an article. We still see people writing references like by hand on paper or even in Word in the wrong format. Clearly, last week I've seen a researcher, he was referring to a website and he said, I referred to that website, and the website, the date was Friday, that date. But I mean, when you cite something like that, it has to have a certain format. Text formatted as recommended, and of course, convincing arguments. All right, so I have a workshop on online training on EndNote Online very soon. If you want to attend, please register. Pay attention to formatting. Again, when you approach a journal, be careful. Descriptive title, we still see some not very clear titles of articles, or very vague, I would say, or very general title. Structure abstract has to have an abstract, half page or full page, to explain what you're talking about. Relevant keywords, it's your choice. We see some articles without keywords, it's fine, but that helps for writing a paper. Your name and co-author names, as I said, this is part of your brand. Your name, until 2008, starting from 2008, we see more researchers, more and more giving the full name. I think that's a good thing because that helps to disambiguate the name when we have very common names. So please first name, last name. If you have middle name, put it. That helps as well. And email address. We all know Albert Einstein, and we still see some funny email addresses. I swear, you still see them on Web of Science, for example. Please use professional email addresses. Can be your affiliation email addresses. If you don't want to use your university or research center email address, use, I don't know, first initial, last name, or first name dot last name, Gmail, whatever. But please don't put something like that, like a crazy physicist or something like that. I mean, clearly that's not, I would say, not professional. All right. Your organization name. We still see some researchers, they just put the department, I don't know, Department of Mathematics, Jeddah. And we don't know if it's King Abdulaziz University or any other institution in Saudi Arabia. I think that's very important. And again, reference list formatted correctly, very, very important. First, the journal won't accept if your paper or your article doesn't have the correct format. So to increase your chances to be published in a top quality journal, better for you to format the article the way they request. Actually, when you visit, when you go on the web and you look at journals' websites, most of the time they give that information. We use, I don't know, Harvard style, APS style, number style, or Zygote style, whatever. But please have a look at that, and that's very important. Okay, few links, and then I'll talk about Journal Citation Report. I just wanted to go through these slides. Journal Citation Report. These are few links, webofscience.com. This link is the most important, workinfo.com, webofknowledgeinfo.com, and this is where you can get training on Journal Citation Report and other Thomson Reuters platforms. If you want to keep in touch, that's my name. You can find me on LinkedIn. So now I just go to the Journal Citation Report. I think you should know how to access Journal Citation Report. It's through the SDL portal. SDL portal, you use your username and password, and you go to foreign databases. All right, let me do it quickly. So you go to sdl.edu.sa. In the top you have foreign or English databases. I got some messages here. All right. Okay. I'll take the questions at the end. Okay, it's pretty slow. I don't know why. All right. So you go to قواعد المعلومات النبية, and you go Journal Citation Report starts with J. So you go here, J, and you have Journal Citation Report, ISI. This thing is important. You can have a look at it later. A journal citation selection process. So Journal Citation Report is based on those top quality journals that you can have a look on Thomson Reuters Master Journal List. And this is the full list of journals that are available in Journal Citation Report. So in here you have the whole list of Journal Citation Report. Journals in Journal Citation Report. Okay. Web of Science, workinfo.com. You go to training and support training. You have some short videos on Journal Citation Report. All right. So if I have a look, and very important, there is a public calendar. You simply register if you want to attend those classes that are mostly done through from the US or London. So you have one, for example, tomorrow, Journal Citation Report. That's on the new platform, so you can register and attend a new class if you want. All right. So in here, that explains the impact factor, immediacy index, GCR on Insights, quick tour, and you have a full class. Here you go, Journal Citation Report on the old version. All right. I'll just send that link. All right. I'll just send it on the chat. Okay. And again, I'll take the questions at the end. All right, so let's talk about the platform, enough of blah blah. So when you reach Journal Citation Report, this is how it looks like. So depending on your research area, you need to select science edition or social science edition. And you can select the year. All right, so by default, it's the most recent, 2013. Okay, as I said, 2014 will be available only around June or July 2015 this year, because we haven't completed to index all the journals for 2014. We often get that feedback. We have some journals publishing like twice a year or once a year. So we still need to index those journals into Web of Science. And then we need some time to analyze the whole database and to extract the journal citation report. So you select the edition, you select the year. So let's keep Science and 2013. And then you have several options as a view. So you can decide to view journals by subject category, by publisher or country. All right. You can see, you can search for specific journals, or you can view all the journals. It's very up to you. All right. So if you know already by experience, you know already the name of the journals that you are pushing. Let's say Nature, Science, Lancet, or whatever journals of electronics, whatever. You can search for that specific journal, or you can search by name or title. I'll just start by subject category. Okay, so if you don't have the information, let's start by category. So we'll look at science journals in 2013, and then here we have the 232 subject categories. Let's talk about acoustics. And now I selected my research area. I know I work in acoustics. And now I want to view the report. Okay, I want to view the ranking. So I need to view the journal data, and I want to sort them by journal title, number of citations received, impact factor, immediacy index, etc., etc., etc. I'll just talk about impact factor. All right. So I'll click on submit. Okay. So that acoustics category has 30 journals. All right. And we see, because I decided to rank on the impact factor, the top one is Ultra Shoal Med. All right. So I have the information on the ISSN. Don't take into account that that Skype logo. All right, it's just stupid. I have Skype on Chrome, and Skype thinks that this is a phone number. So this is the ISSN of that journal. In 2013, it received 1,332 citations. Okay, the number of articles, and this is the impact factor. All right. So when we rank the journals by impact factor, we see that this one is the top one. But we could sort again in the same category and look at the number of citations. And I want to sort again. Now the new journal, the top journal, is Journal Acoustic something, and the one that was the top one is down to number 17 on the impact factor. So again, the impact factor is not the only citation metric or citation data that you should look at. If you look at total citation, clearly this one gets more citation, but it published much more articles, 900 articles, and this one was publishing 55 articles. So again, be careful with the impact factor. Clearly this one looks like it's publishing more frequently, I would say. So again, you need to be careful when you compare the journals. All right. The immediacy index, if we look at that immediacy index that I was mentioning during my presentation, the one that was top one in impact factor, on the impact factor, is now number 3. But when you publish in this one, you get cited more quickly. All right. Faster when you publish in that journal. So this is the ranking for those acoustics journals. All right. So we have 30 journals. In here you can decide to keep those top 3. All right, because they have a good immediacy index, they have very good impact factor, and I want to update mark list. So now I have a new updated mark list. All right. So now I have a mark list. This is my selection. All right. I did it quickly, but again, for you, you do it the way you want, based on your profile, depends on your strategy, depends on your target. This is how you select journals. I haven't looked at the journal profile, but let's have a look at this one, Ultrasound Med. So this is what we call the journal profile. Journal profile, you have again those analytics for that particular journal, and you can go down. You have the full name. All right, looks like a German. Yeah, it's a German journal. It's published 6 times a year. That's why it has only 55 articles. So once a week, one every 2 months. Okay, and one every 2 months, six journals. So it has around 9 articles per journal. So you have the address. Okay, you can have a look at the journal ranking. So if you look at the journal ranking, it generates the same type of diagram that I was using in my presentation. Okay, so 4.6. Okay, it's pretty high. Okay, so clearly that's a Q1 journal. It's number 1 in acoustics, but it's also publishing in radiology, nuclear medicine, and medical imaging. And in that category, it's number 10 out of 122 journals in that category. But anyway, in both categories, it's a Q1 journal. All right. Let's go back to the journal profile. We explain the figure. You may use different platforms, different databases, but we explain the figure. That's 4.6 coming from Web of Science core collection. As I said, we look at the total number of citations over the past 2 years, 2011, 2012. We sum that. And we divide the total number of citations by the number of items, number of articles. And when you do 576 divided by 124, you get 4.6. And you have the impact factor on 5 years. That's pretty interesting to see that it helps for the trend. All right, and it's pretty useful for established journals. For new journals, you would use journal impact factor, but for well-established journals, you see here, it was 3.2 over the past 5 years, but went up 4.6. All right. Then you have the Immediacy Index. We look at the current items. All right. So this is how you would evaluate the speed of citations received, etc. You have several analytics that you could use. If you're not really sure on the definition of each citation metric, you could go to the help here, and in here you have glossary. So if you go to index, here we explain journal immediacy index, for example. So we explain how we calculate it and how it's used. All right. So for comparing journals, especially in cutting-edge research, Immediacy Index can provide a useful perspective. All right. Okay. So it's calculated, and it says, it indicates how quickly articles in the journal are cited. Okay. So clearly, please refer to the help when you have some doubt. I was referring just last 5 minutes, and then I'll take the questions. In here, we explain and we say that journal is citing other journals. All right, so think about it as the journal level, and you have the cited journal. So this journal has cited other journals. All right. So cited journal. So click here for cited journal data table. This journal has cited other journals. So you see that those journals altogether are connected. When we say it has cited, actually the journal itself didn't cite anyone. It's the papers published in those journals based on your references, because as a researcher, you publish in that journal, you cited someone, that information is in your references. Web of Science, we read and we index those references, we extract that data, and we say, when people publish in that journal in 2013, they also cited this journal and this journal, and that's the impact, and we see the number of citations. So in 2013, when people published in that journal, these journals have been cited at least the papers in that journal have been cited 11 times, and it was only 11 times only in 2013. It was 20 in 2012. All right, so this is how you see that the journals are connected. Okay, so these are the cited journal data. All right, so let's go back to the journal profile. Okay, and citing journals, again, pretty much the same logic. Okay, those journals have been cited in that journal, were cited. The other one is which journal have cited the first journal. All right, so this is how we use that information. Okay, let me go back to the journal so you can explore those links, source data as well. So we explain. Okay, so you could do the math by yourself. All right. So this is on the 5 years, number of citations, number of papers within each year, and we cumulated the numbers, and we get 303 articles for the whole. I think this is 10 years. Yeah, 2004. Actually, since the beginning, actually, because we have the rest here. All right. Self-citation as well is pretty useful, and actually we look at that to see if the journal is not manipulating too much the self-citation. All right. So the impact factor with self-citation is 4.6, but if you remove the self-citation, it's 3.1. Think about it as if journals are just manipulating the citations, and they encourage the researchers to cite articles published in the same journal. Okay, you publish in my journal, I'll give you a free subscription to my journal, and by default that will, I would say, encourage you to cite those papers cited or published in that journal. So we do look at that as well, and actually you could return to the list and you say impact factor. Impact factor. All right. So again, that will be the rank on the impact factor here. All right. I think this is it. Again, depending on how you want to use Journal Citation Report, you could search for a specific journal. All right. So for journal title word, or let's say lancé. Okay. Title word. I want to see all the journals with lancé in the name. I could go back and search for, submit ISSN. Okay. All right. Nothing here. Okay. Let me just search for, because I was using. Okay. I know that this ISSN works. Okay, so if I search for ISSN, I will find the performance of that particular journal. Okay, so again, view all journals. Pretty interesting to see on the impact factor. So this is alphabetical order, but to see, we see this one has an impact factor of 162. That's the top one. Then we see Nature 42, Lancet, etc., etc. And if you look at that one, it's pretty interesting. If you look at the impact factor, 162, okay. But you could look at, let me show you something. You could look at the trend. So 162 is for 2013, all right? 2013, this year, Science Edition. But you could look at it and see what was it in 2010. And you would see that this journal, clearly the trend, here you go, impact factor trend, you click on that button, and 2009, it was 87, so something happened on that journal. They published quite very good articles with big impact, and now it almost doubled its impact factor. So again, for people who think that things are quite static, it's not true. And you could see the same downward trend, like top journal in 2002, and which is down or almost like zero in terms of impact factor, or very low impact factor. All right. Okay, I'm done with journal citation reports. I'll just look at the questions. Okay. All right. So I have to go up because I was hearing a lot of bits. Okay, so we have to go up. That was the beginning. Okay, names. Okay. Sorry, because everyone was sending his name. I don't know why. Yeah, if it's for the certificates, you will get the certificates anyway from Talal, from SDL. Right, so present in all journals. I don't know, I didn't get that question. So Lamia, if you can ask again the questions. Present in all journals. Ranking is different in time. Yeah, once a year you have different number of citations and different number of papers, so you will get different impact factor once a year. You have a report once a year. Okay, you mean references differ from journal to another? Yeah, when you approach a journal, the journal will tell you we require, let's say, APS style or Harvard style in terms of format. So you need to use the required style. What is the general rules to publish my papers? My paper, okay. General rule is, once you have your paper, well, you need to think about which journals you need to approach. All right, and then you need to think about the research area. If you publish in a certain research area, you need to have that information. Clearly, journal citation report. You go here, view a group of journals by subject category, and now you will have a full list of journals publishing within your research area. And then, depending on your profile, I mean, clearly a PhD student would need to be indexed quickly, maybe to validate and to get his PhD. If you publish with, if you collaborate with a researcher who's already well established in Q1 journals, well, again, he may help you to approach those journals. Depend on your case. Did you mean Q1 better than Q2? I mean that Q1 has a bigger impact factor or bigger impact than Q2. Yeah, this is what it means. Okay, doesn't mean that the journal is better, and doesn't mean that the article published in Q2 is not good. It means that at the journal level, right? At the journal level, the impact of that journal, in general, in average, is higher. All right. Half a page, yeah, for abstract depends. If you want to write half page, 1 page, depends. But an abstract is an abstract, so it has to be quite concise and small. I would say like 10% maybe, or 20%, 10%, 15% of your full article. 500 to 800, I don't know, I didn't get that. Maybe in a number of words, I don't know. This depends on the journal guidelines, exactly. So I was just giving general guidelines. What about EndNote? EndNote, if you want to, I think SDL training, if you want to attend the workshop on EndNote for the references formatting, there is a workshop which is planned very soon. So e-training, you go to the SDL portal, you go to e-training, and EndNote online, well, there is no seat anymore, sorry, but that's supposed to be on 23rd of March, but don't panic. If you go to endnote.com training, we have public classes that you can attend for free, all right? So you have training videos, you can have a look at all those videos. EndNote online is free, you can have access, you can register on endnote.com, you create a profile, it's free. And there is a calendar here. For example, EndNote online, EndNote desktop for Windows or Mac, so you can attend those classes as well, right? Okay, what differs between conference and journals? Well, different is the type of format. Conference proceeding and article is different by nature. Okay, so if you have a conference proceeding or a journal, impact will be different. In journal citation report, we look at the journals only. We don't look at conference proceedings. Okay. How to get in this page using SDL, I explained that already. You go to foreign databases and you click on J for journal citation reports. Okay. So impact factor is not so that much important. Actually, it is. It is because it just gives you that information in terms of analytics, and it tells you that in average, an impact factor. If I tell you I have a journal, my impact factor is 4, that means that in average, a paper published in my journal is receiving 4 citations. Doesn't mean that everyone will get 4, all right, citations. It can be 0, it can be 1,000, it can be 100, it can be 200. Depends. But in average, when we divide the number of citations by the number of papers published in that journal, we get that impact factor, all right? How can I anticipate the ranking of a journal since there are more than one factor, and which factor has more weight on the ranking, if there any? Well, I mentioned that already. The citation metrics are very different, all right? So if you look at again factor or immediacy index or a total sites, for example, clearly think about it as you need to look at the journals within the same category first, and then a journal which is publishing once a week, all right, 52 journals per year, or once a month, or once every 2 months, that may play. So you need to look at that as well. Depends on what you want to achieve, I would say. But again, there is no specific general ranking, all right? We just say that just statistics, and then you interpret the statistics the way you want. And actually, we give some indications when you go to the health here in the top. One's mentioning, for example, let's say contents. So if you say let's say again factor metrics, and actually that doesn't belong to Thomson Reuters, totally different. Okay. It's a third party, all right, and it says that which journals have contributed these citations. So it helps to see, for example, I have that in mind, Lancet or PLOS ONE, British Medical Journal of Medicine, or whatever. These journals are well connected. Okay, so it gives the information that people read probably 3, 4, 5, 10 journals. They have access to those journals, those top journals. So by default, if they always look at those journals that are well connected, there are great chances that if you publish in that journal, you will cite one of those journals. All right. Article influence score. The mean article influence score is 1. A score greater than 1 indicates that each article in the journal has above average influence. Okay. So again, this is clearly purely statistics. All right. So this is where we give all the analytics, and then you use them the way you want. What differs between impact factor for journal and immediacy index? Again, impact factor is an average number of citations per paper. Immediacy index is, I would say, the speed that an article is receiving citation. All right. So if the immediacy index is higher for a journal than a second journal, that means that once you publish in that journal with a higher immediacy index, that means that people cite faster the first journal than the other journal. Think about it as because maybe they read more that journal than the other one. And if you make the analogy with TV channels, maybe when you talk about international news, you will probably refer more to, I don't know, international channels, BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, Arabia, rather than the newspaper that you have on, I don't know, the paper, the newspaper that you read, rather than the one that you watch at TV, you know. So, and it's like the speed, it may be the speed of spreading the news, all right? You could compare that, it's faster to spread something by internet, all right, Twitter or whatever, or LinkedIn, rather than writing a letter, sending the letter, waiting 2, 3, 4 days, okay? It's like the speed of the citation that you get. Okay. What is the difference between ISI and SJR? Okay, ISI is the old name or the previous name of Web of Science core collection. SJR doesn't belong to Thomson Reuters and it's using a different database. All right. So because it's using different database, the impact or the number of citations or the number of citations will be different. So if you look at SJR, if you look at that cancer journal that we had a look at, we have different databases, so we will have a different number of citations, and we'll have different citation metrics. The database, the initial database that we use to do those statistics is different, all right? Which is better, conference paper or journal? I would say doesn't matter. You may have a big impact and you may be cited quite a lot when you present a work at conference rather than journal, and vice versa. There is no better, okay? These are both different supports to present your research work. Actually, you can present a work in conference and publish an article, and I would suggest you do that. Please slow down, I'm sorry to read that only now. But if you have any questions, please let me know. You can contact me and I'm happy to take any questions. Why some journals require high fees but others don't? Is this related to the level of journal? No, I mean, well, first, you need to know that Thomson Reuters is not an editor. We don't publish journals. You will never see a journal with Thomson Reuters as a publisher. Why some journals require high fees but others don't? Well, that's strategy. I mean, I would ask you, I mean, they require some fees to run the journals. Maybe they think that, of course, yeah, they may have a bigger impact, but so there's a kind of fee barrier, I would say. That's purely management, and we don't have anything to do with that. Plus one, I was mentioning that it's like open access journal. It's not free to get to be open access. But again, I mean, that's at the journal level. We don't have anything to do with that. What is DOI? Well, I mean, it's a way of registering your journal. Not all the journals don't have DOI. It's good for the journals to have DOI because it's like a referencing tool. But again, we don't have anything to do. We don't have any relationship with DOI. How can we calculate the H index? The H index depends if you want to calculate at the journal level or at the author level. Quick way to do it is you go to Web of Science, all right? Actually, you can do the H index on anything, all right? So let's do, if I do a search on an author, okay, and on K, and I do a search, okay, this researcher has this number of articles, all right, okay, it's still loading, okay, and you have create citation report here on the right hand side. I did a workshop, it was on Sunday on Web of Science, but unfortunately the connection was really, really bad. So there's a plan to do it again, and I will go through that to explain the features of Web of Science. I'm sorry, the connection was very poor, so we had to stop the Web of Science training workshop. So you do a search on the name, all right, or on different papers. Well, here we have different N and K, all right. Okay, so N and K, I'm just using the last name and first initial, but I would need to look for the research area. For example, I know is working in pediatrics, let's say pediatrics, okay? So this author has 270, whatever, maybe different authors. So you create citation reports. So you need to have a list of your publication, and the H index is here, it's 47, okay? Okay, that means that this author has 47 papers with at least 47 citations. All right. Okay, we want presentation slides, please. Okay, I will send them to Talal. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, time is over. So I will send the presentation to Talal if you can share it to everyone. All right. I'm sorry, I have only 1 hour. Usually I have more time when I visit universities. There are other workshops planned with SDL. So anyway, I will send the presentation. Again, as I said, you go to Work Info Training Support, and in here you have all the videos. The person who asked me about the H index, you go to Web of Science, and H index is there. All right. H index. Okay, there is a video on citation report and the H index. You go to Web of Science, citation report and the H index, 5 or 6 minute videos, video which explain the H index. For journal citation report, training and support, and you go to journal citation report here. I will send this link again, journal citation report, and you have a full class here, 1 hour explaining journal citation report. Okay, here is the link for journal citation report, sorry. Okay, and for Web of Science core collection. So please take a note of that. So this one is journal citation report, this one is for Web of Science. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. You will get your certificate through SDL, and we can keep in touch through LinkedIn if you want. No worries at all, no problem. And the support, as I said, doesn't stop here, so you can find all the support here. All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care and have a nice evening. And مع السلامة. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.